It's not a normal world, it's Taskmaster world, and welcome to a brand new episode of Taskmaster World, the podcast that has another fantastic guest. Today we are talking about Taskmaster New Zealand Series 1, Episode 6, in preparation for that announcement, fingers crossed it's any day now, of Series 3. But fear not, I am not doing this alone because it'd just be weird talking to myself. I'm here with a wonderful guest. He's best known for appearing in Series 2 of Taskmaster New Zealand and being on New Zealand radio every morning with the Taskmaster. It's themselves. It's the wonderful Matt Heath.
Hello, how are you? I hope everything's good where you are. It's great here.
Great here as well. That the heating's on. That's a positive. So, what's it like working with Jeremy Wells on the radio? Is it different working with him on Taskmaster?
Yeah, it is massively different on Taskmaster. I guess he's the Taskmaster, and on the radio show, he's just my co-host. So he's got more power on the Taskmaster show. So it was kind of a weird dynamic there, but it's good. He's a great man. He's one of my best mates, and so it was good. I think he enjoyed being able to sort of boss me around, and I definitely think he felt comfortable judging me harshly, and because we judge each other harshly on the radio show, so I would have won if it had been a different Taskmaster, definitely.
Yeah. And the question that never gets asked to anyone that's ever been on Taskmaster: was it fun?
It was the most fun. I couldn't believe it. I didn't really know anything about Taskmaster before I did it. I'd heard about the show. It's one of those shows that everyone said you got to watch. You got to watch. When enough people say you got to watch a show, it sort of builds up and you get a mental block and you don't watch it. And then when I was cast to be on Taskmaster, I was like, well, I can't watch it now because A, it makes me nervous about doing the show, and B, I kind of had this dumb idea in my head that I wanted to go in as the guy that didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Because all the other contestants were big fans of the show, so they knew how it worked. So when I went in there, I didn't even really know what to expect, and I couldn't believe it how great it was, because you're sitting in your dressing room, your green room at the mansion, and then you just get let out, and someone's put all this work into setting up this really fun challenge for you to do. It just seems like the kind of thing I'd pay to do, In retrospect, I probably should have maybe watched a couple of episodes, and then I would have known little things like that you could send Paul to go and get things for you and stuff. I spent most of it running around grabbing things for myself that I didn't need to.
Yeah.
But that was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
I loved it. I really loved it. It was one of the best things I've been involved in.
Yeah, and I think that with Taskmaster, not knowing anything about the show, never seen it, works actually a little bit better, because then you go in it and you're not like trying to copy what other people have done, and you're not.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was first on stage and in front of the crowd, and we were seeing what other people did. I was like, you can do that. Like I took a really dumb practical view to anything. Like if they said fly, I'd get on a bike and try and make some wings and try and jump into a lake. Whereas someone that's smarter than me and knew what was going on, like David Corrios, he'd print out a little picture of himself and attach it to a balloon. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, you could do that. Or Laura Daniel would be like, putting herself into a green screen situation and flying around on a magic carpet. And I was like, right. Because I just didn't know the parameters of the thing. I thought, actually, I just thought everything was practical. You just had to, it took me a while to realize that there was some wiggle room in terms of using in terms of how you define the challenge.
Yeah, and if you had to do any task again, which task would you try and attempt to do again?
I've thought about that a lot, because there was a lot of tasks when I thought I'd done really well at the time, and I'd leave kind of smugly, and then I'd see on the TV that on the big screen in front of the audience when everyone was laughing at me, that I totally misunderstood what was going on. There was one where we were on a big parachute and we had to throw everything off the parachute, get as many things off, and we were on a rocking chair. and I thought I'd crack the code by flipping it over and jumping around on the rocking chair because I just hadn't read the task basically very well, and what it said is you have to be sitting on the rocking chair. So I was like, oh, I'm brilliant! I've cracked the code. I'm jumping around. I've turned it into a sort of moon hopper bouncing around, and it was just all for nothing, and it took me ages, and I basically went into exhaustion. Like these safety people were looking at me because it was so hot. It was about 30 degrees and 100% humidity, and I was just bouncing around doing this incredibly exertion, and it was all for nothing because I just hadn't read that one line that you had to be. So I'd do that one again.
Yeah.
I'd definitely do that one again.
And what I've noticed when watching it and then rewatching it, you notice that the UK version, there's a lot more. It's a lot more darker, and there's a lot more rain involved in the UK version.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm not sure. The hardest thing to deal with on the New Zealand version is the heat. You like if you're in the caravan, there was one where we had to escape from the caravan. It was kind of an escape room version, and it was so intense. They were having to swap out camera people because they were, overheating. Because it was taking me so long to get out. I don't think anyone expected anyone to be stuck in there for as long as I had them stuck in there. But the main thing that we compete with in New Zealand is the heat. Especially when it was filmed for me, and I guess that was almost a year ago now. It's pretty hot in New Zealand in March and April in Auckland anyway.
Yeah, and did you know Paul Williams before you had been on the show?
Not at all. I didn't know him at all, and so when I went on the show, I first met him, in his tuxedo, and so I had this, and he was sort of being Paul, right? And so then the first time I saw him, and he was wearing like a footy shirt, and you go, oh, he's just a normal human being, because he plays the role so well, and he's just such a great guy. But I actually ended up feeling because the other contestants were really good friends with them beforehand. So it was kind of a weird thing because I felt like I had this really special bond with them just on doing the challenges. Like, I really loved being around him, but it wasn't him. And so it's been really, really great to get to know him afterwards. And like at lunch on the shoots of the Taskmaster, because he's just such a great guy. I love him. He's an awesome Paul, and he's in real life. He's just this very funny, cool, he's just such a top bloke. I love him. But I feel quite jealous that other people had the relationship with him. It's quite weird. Like, the other four contestants, was there four contestants? Other four contestants, were, they had their, like when I was watching on the screen, it's like, oh, you had this exact same experience with Paul that seemed quite special to me. But, yours was kind of better because you already knew him.
Yeah. And with the success of the New Zealand Taskmaster, has your fame risen since you went on the show? Have you been shouted at in the street by anyone saying, "Oh, you're the one from Taskmaster"?
Yeah, like it's interesting because I've done a lot of different things in my life, and I was down in Christchurch doing cricket commentary because I do sports commentary. And I was on the sideline, and people were coming up to meet me, and I was signing things, and it was cool because it was just rolling through the different things I've done in my life, like each next person that came up, what they were there for. But it was just really cool because the Taskmaster people that had come up to meet me because of Taskmaster were totally different from anyone else that it had, and the various other things I did. They were sort of families, and that's really. That's really, really cool. I was like, I think some people like me because I was a real battler on the show, like I think people liked what they did, but they sort of felt sorry for me as well. So the way they came up was kind of like oh man, oh, oh boy, you were doing that. It's like, you had no idea what you were doing. It was sort of sympathy fans.
Yeah, and with when you compare Series 1 and Series 2, you had Lee Hart with the leaf blower, and then you had you with the guitar.
Yeah.
You loved it.
Yeah, well, Lee Hart's like one of my best mates. He's a really good friend of mine from a long time. So I think I was maybe I was put in the Lee Hart part in the second series. Yeah, that guitar, man. Like it was such like like trying to like could they not have thrown? I guess because it was just in the shed and it wasn't really a big part of the show. But I gravitated towards the guitar because I can play the guitar semi. Um, but it's not a real guitar. You can't really tune it. So it was like those. But yeah, any time I could turn a challenge into a song, I did it pretty much. And there was ones that didn't even make it that I did.
Yeah.
I did so many songs.
Well, so now if you imagine that
Mm,
a New Zealand comedian has stumbled across this on YouTube and are watching this, and
yeah,
and they've been asked to do series 3,
yeah.
what advice would you give them?
Well, I would give them the advice I would give them, if I could give myself, was read the challenge. I was talking to Paul at the sort of rap party we were doing after season 2, and he was saying what was strange about you is you sort of would spend about a second reading the task, and then you talk to me for 5 minutes like there was no clock, and he would said it was quite it filled him full of panic that I wasn't getting around to doing the task. I was like just having a chat with Paul, and that stuff doesn't make like me talking about what Paul's been up to or what some kind of sport chat or something. He's like, he just wanted to say to me, and also spend some time reading the task. So what I'd say is, be aware of the clock and read the task and make sure, don't just read it and throw it away and assume that you have read it, because there's always a little trick in it. And you know what I mean? So I would say that, but also in the end, does it really matter? I had heaps of fun, and even if I got things wrong, I think it was quite entertaining for people that I was such a moron. So I don't know. I probably wouldn't do it differently myself going into it again, because I probably couldn't have had more fun than I did. So yeah, it depends. There's two types of advice. Advice to want to win the show is quite different to advice to try and enjoy the show, if you know what I mean. If you wanted to go and I could give you a whole lot of tips how you could do better in the scoring, but I'd probably say in terms of having fun, I'd say just go in blind and feel grateful.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. Now when you hear about Taskmaster after the series is there, so series 1 in the UK, they all went on a holiday afterwards, and Alex went with them. And with this series, did you lot stay in contact afterwards? Did you become more friends than you were previously?
Oh, absolutely. Like the five, so when we were divided up into groups, it was me and Ursula and David, Guy, and Laura, and they had a little thread because they were the three friends. They called themselves the three friends, and because they knew each other before, and they were talking about that, and then they added us to that thread, and now it's called the Five Friends thread, and we text each other all the time. We've had at least 3 times we've got together and had drinks and stuff. I mean, most recently we went out to Ursula's just bought a new house, so we went out there and had a big night out there. So yeah, it's made me really, really close to those people. They're just 5 such, well, I said 5. I can't say that. They're just 4 such great people. They're really good, and we're all kind of different people. So I great casting. They cast great New Zealanders for the show. I've got no idea who's in the next series, but it should be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Because no one actually knows if there is going to be a 3rd series, because it's not been confirmed.
Right. Okay.
So
I assume it will. It was a bit of a ratings juggernaut in New Zealand series 2, so they'd be silly not to go again. But you never know.
yeah, you never know. But I assume that it might be going ahead, because Alex Horn mentioned in an article on the British Guardian that he's in a group chat with David Sundin, that's the Swedish version of Alex, and Paul, that they're in a group chat together. So
Oh, really?
yeah. So they've got
Wow.
a WhatsApp chat called the Taskmaster Assistants.
Yeah, right. Because that's the great thing about Taskmaster, and anyone listening to this will obviously know this, but it was a surprise to me. I didn't realise that the Taskmaster is just a figurehead, and the Paul, or our Paul, and your Alex is the show. Like they are the star of the show, and they run the show, and it's way more about them. And then the Taskmaster is just a sort of sits in the throne, and I think whoever came up with the format think it was it was your Paul that came up with the format, eh?
Yeah, it was Alex on.
Yeah,
He went up to Edinburgh and took like
yeah,
nearly 95 million people to make him do tasks over a year, and then
right.
the audience that he's got them all to do stupid things for a year.
Yeah, right. Because yeah, that's just such a brilliant format idea. It's kind of like it's just like a switcheroo. You can operate under the radar as the assistant, but you're really it's kind of like the Butler did the murder kind of situation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it's like Cluedo but without murder.
It's a lot like the whole of Taskmaster is a lot like Cluedo without the murder.
Yeah,
Although we did have one task that I oh no, that was just me that was pretending to murder people. I don't think the task was murder someone. I can't remember what that was when I was. Oh, that's right. We had to um, make a short film with as many characters in it as possible, and I made an excellent murder mystery that got voted down cruelly by Jeremy.
yeah. Jeremy had stepped up in series 2 after his telling off in series 1 by Greg Davis. Now we move on to series 1, episode 6, which in the world of yesteryear,
Yeah,
because it's old now, it's halfway through the series. So the prize task was to bring in the thing that scares you the most. What scares you the most?
what scares me the most? I had a dream.
And Madeline Sami was scared of small holes. Is that a
Oh yeah,
weird thing to be scared of, or do you reckon that's a natural thing to be scared of?
I think that's quite natural to be scared of that. Like, is there what's that thing? Is it called? There's a word for it. Tropo,
Um,
tropophobia or something,
it,
and it's being scared of lots of little holes in something, at once. And I think that's natural because it's probably horrible plagues and skin infections evolutionarily was probably if you came across a tiny little hole, not normally a good thing. Also, it could be a wasp in it.
Yeah, and then that also causes problems when you want to eat a crumpet. You might have to sour tape the crumpet together to hide the
Oh,
hole.
a crumpet! Because a crumpet is so. I wish I could remember the time. I think it is called tropophobia. But yeah, a crumpet does look like a disgusting disease if you look at it the wrong way. But personally, I love. Oh, that's why I always put cheese on my crumpets to cover up the hole.
I've got because crumpet's supposed to be the stereotypical British thing.
Right?
I'll break the mold there. I don't like them.
You don't like them?
No. They're too floppy.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm actually born in England, so a lot of the things that I am into brought up with the child as a child are no one here is into, like Yorkshire pudding and toad in the hole and all these kind of English things are big in my life, and I can't understand when people in New Zealand just don't see the importance of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't think people will have eaten Yorkshire pudding because there's no Yorkshire in New Zealand.
Yeah, there's no Yorkshire. There's a lot of most other towns. Most towns in England do have a namesake in New Zealand, but I don't think there's a Yorkshire.
No, I mean, there could be if someone would make it. So Lee Hart brought in an iron. Are you scared of irons?
No, but I might be scared of Lee Hart with an iron. Yeah, especially after a few drinks. No, I mean it's healthy to be. I mean you've got to have a healthy fear of irons, don't you? Like I mean they can do damage. Like I've got a normal, sensible, self-preservational
Yeah.
fear of an iron.
The iron. The problem with the iron for me is the heat. You could burn yourself very easily, or you could
Yeah.
burn your favourite pair of trousers.
Oh yeah. I've definitely damaged things with an iron. In fact, I tried to iron my son was going to a birthday party, and we hadn't got a present, so I decided to get him a $50 note to give his friend. And I thought, oh, this is a crumpled up $50 note, and then I ironed it, but I didn't realise New Zealand money's. Well, I mean, I've been in New Zealand forever, but I didn't realise money was plastic. And so I ironed it, and it just screwed up into this horrible little ball. And I was like, "That's a freaking waste of $50, you know." But I just wanted to be a crisp $50 as it was a birthday present. So yeah, I'm scared of irons being on my money.
Yeah, and then we had Angela driving with mirrors, but
Oh yeah,
it was like a very small mirror, so she should have brought in a bigger mirror. It would have been a lot more impressive if she had a bigger mirror.
yeah. Mirrors are kind of scary in terms of that sort of trope that they're a portal into another realm, you know, and if you look into the mirror and the mirror doesn't correspond to what you're doing, I mean that's terrifying. Also, if you're with someone and they don't have a reflection, that's not great.
No, no, and the mirrors are used like in horror film when you want to summon the Candyman. It's really just your local shop owner that's having sweets. Well, gone off candy probably. I don't eat the stuff. So we
No, I
move
don't. I
on.
don't. Either.
No, no, I don't get the I don't get why it's delicious. It's not. It's just too chewy.
Savoury, mate. Savoury.
Meh.
Savoury all the way.
And then we move on to task number one: make the biggest thing disappear. Now, I think that sort of reminded me of a task from Series 10 in the UK version where they had to make something disappear. And Moan Rizwan, who is now famous but wasn't too famous before, made the cow that was labelled Linda become really small by just camera trickery and a mini toy cow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is the kind of things I didn't know you were allowed to do when I started doing Taskmaster. I thought that kind of trickery, that clever trickery. Yeah. If you asked the question before, what advice would I'd say to people would be like, you can do clever camera trickery, is what I'd say, because
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And in this task, you can see the clever trickery that no one in any version of Taskmaster I've ever seen has ever tried to Photoshop out the house. Ever. Photoshop has
Right.
been used until now.
Yeah, but so was there a Photoshop in the house? Because you're only allowed to use what's in the house,
Oh,
right?
Paul had Photoshop and magically had his laptop with him.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
if he ran outside to get it, but he had it with him. And
Right. Okay. We had a task on Taskmaster 2 that I was on that didn't make it, and it involved me using my laptop because my laptop was in the house because I was, doing some work in my dressing room, and then and you'll never see this, but my laptop got stolen as part of the
oh,
task.
ah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
let's say, well, as you said, it might not get seen, but who knows with the evolution of Taskmaster Supermax Plus, the Taskmaster streaming service for all the Taskmaster, who knows if
Yeah.
that will be put on there as.
I've heard about this. Are they going to put? Is the New Zealand one going to go on there, or is it all global Taskmasters that are going to be on there? Because it's a 24-hour streaming, just Taskmaster channel.
Yeah, so according to Alex, everything's going to be on there, and the first things that he'd put in his list when he was mentioning it was New Zealand. So I reckon once he's finished adding series 5 to 12, then New Zealand will be first.
Oh, that's bloody good, mate. I'm looking forward to my residuals.
'Cause that seems, out of all of them, when you see fans making content, and and one of the things I was doing, which I'll disclose now, was I was making a series called Fan Art Friday, where I show Taskmaster fan art on a Friday. And when you ask me
Yeah.
to send it in, a lot of it is Britain and New Zealand Taskmaster fan art,
Oh, right.
which is
Okay.
quite good. And there's a fan account on Twitter that creates a image from the show into a sketch drawing, and they are
Wow.
really good. The
Oh,
art.
that's good. Yeah, yeah.
Very.
Someone sent me a painting they'd done
Mm,
of us from, and I thought that's good. Like it's you have these formats of TV shows, formats like this, but none inspire the creativity and the love and the fandom that Taskmaster does.
mm.
Feel
Yeah,
lucky to have been asked to be on it.
yeah. And then because because going on for what you said with Doctor Who, when you try and create something in fan base, the BBC are like, "Whoa, hold your horses there, Jim," and then it copyrights you and it attacks you and like, "Whoa,
Whoa,
no, we
whoa,
don't want
right.
to make £4.50 out of a fan series that isn't very good. We want that money." Whoa! And Alex, on the other hand, for Taskmaster, like, "Go on, have it. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to copyright anything apart from if you use a full episode. I will copyright that because that's blatantly illegal."
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
you can use a theme tune music and anything, and he doesn't care because he wants to see what fans get up to. So if you YouTube fan made Taskmasters, there's
yeah.
like they're all over the world. There's Brazil versions, there's American versions. It's like just YouTube people, fans have just like got together to make their own version, and
Wow,
it's
good on
really
them.
interesting to see that happen in the world. And so Brindley Stint moved. Brindley Stint like talked about how the climate, like not technically climate change, but like the disappearance of a cow in the old film style, which was really interesting because apparently it was the worst film task ever because half the crew was in the actual film.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was generally. Well, I didn't even notice that it looked awful
Yeah, right. Yeah,
because
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because who cares?
yeah. And then Guy Williams tried to make a big bubble. Do you reckon you'll be able to make one of those big bubbles, like the one where you have to like blow the liquid in it, and you like,
I'm terrible at those. I've done a lot. In fact, I bought a bubble machine for my kids actually, just to entertain them with the bubble machine because of my poor bubbling. Coincidentally, and this is a classic New Zealand thing, I can see Guy Williams right now because he works just across the road, so I can actually see Guy Williams right now. So that's New Zealand. Like that's New Zealand for you.
yeah,
You mention someone and they're probably in person's eye shot.
wow. And then when Lee Hart did his attempt, he put the globe in the bin. When you did the series, was there a globe in the house?
Yes,
Was
yeah,
it
that globe was still there. Yeah.
right? Because I thought they had literally actually got rid of it.
Yeah, no, they must have got their globe out.
Oh God, we didn't want anything bad to happen to it because apparently it wasn't recyclable at
Yeah,
all. So
yeah.
he sort of messed up there. But
Although there's been a big scandal in New Zealand recently that it turns out that all our recycling bins are just being dumped in the rubbish with the other bins, and it's all been a bit of a laugh for having the two different bins for recycling and not recycling. They've all been put in different trucks and just dumped in the same hole.
yeah, well, I had and we in Britain we call them wheelie bins, and
Yeah, we call them wheelie bins.
yeah, well, the wheeliness sort of surprised you. So I was hopping in. We put our car in the garage, and we opened up the garage door, and there's the bin right in front of us. No, like me and my mum, because my dad's at work, didn't put the bin in front of the garage at all. It's just the bin just appeared in front of the garage.
Wow, ghost.
Yeah, and I thought if we drive forward, we'll probably crash into the bin, and we don't want that to happen. And so
No,
I
we don't.
moved the bin out of the way, which isn't an easy task to do. It could be a task on Taskmaster to try and move the bin the furthest.
There was a task on Taskmaster 2 that also didn't make it into the video where I hid in a wheelie bin from Paul,
Mm,
but you'll never see that.
yeah. And then Madeline Sami tried to get rid of the caravan by using a black cloth and the crew to move the caravan from behind them while she pretended to be Mystic Meg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's clever. Clever. She's clever. Great New Zealander.
Mm. She's very clever. She was also very good on Patriot Brains, which is another fantastic program. Which quite surprised me because I never expected to see the cast of Taskmaster New Zealand on Patriot Brains.
Mm.
Yeah. And then we move on to task 2, which is a team task, which is gather the tools and bring them to the area. It's a two-part task, very rarely seen in Taskmaster, full stop. And if you had, so they had to get this liquid of, I would say, like yellowy soup. What
Mm-hmm.
tools, now that you've been in the Taskmaster ranch, mansion, house, whatever we're going to call it, and you've seen the fantastic shed with a fish monster in it, what item would you have grabbed to transfer liquid?
Well, there was a whole paddling pool. There was a whole blue shell-shaped paddling pool in the shed in season 2, and that seems perfect for the task. But I think this is what I've got a theory, and I'm not sure. I think sometimes if there's something that's too perfect for the task, that just happens to not be around when you need it.
Wow.
I feel like, I don't know, like this might be a conspiracy theory. I might be spreading misinformation, but I get the feeling that if the exact thing you need, then I think sometimes that just ends up in a different area of the mansion, and not in the shed if it comes to that task.
That's what I like to call sabotage, and well, you couldn't go to court for that because it's not. I don't think the court would care enough, unless a massive fan of Taskmaster. Which I would highly doubt that any law person is into Taskmaster apart from Judge Rinder because he's on the telly himself. So he's probably
Yeah, and cops in New Zealand, they haven't got time to be driving out to Riverhead where the mansion is in New Zealand anyway. Even if there was a murder, they'd probably leave it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the house is that with the UK version, because we haven't got many areas because like TV in the UK is mainly made in London because it's like a powerhouse, and so there's not much grassy areas. So the Taskmaster house is like really easy to find, and especially Google Maps. But the New Zealand Taskmaster house is the most hardest thing to find on Google at all because you type in Taskmaster and all you see is a massive tree, and you can sort of see a window blocking the view.
Yeah.
Very annoying.
Yeah. It's certainly rural, the Taskmaster house in New Zealand.
Yeah, and because I know someone called his username is Taskmaster Master, has a massive website that has every single piece of information on Taskmaster and every contestant, Taskmaster and assistant ever you can imagine. You'll be there for 3 million years looking through the whole website. Once try and find the locations to have images, and really, you're never going to find an image of the Taskmaster. It's like it's got an invisibility, like code.
Yeah.
It's like painting with invisible ink.
Well, I think mostly it's a wedding venue and it's not shooting Taskmaster NZ.
Wow. Oh,
I think so. So when you're making Taskmaster NZ, you have to fight off brides and grooms to book it.
Wow. I definitely want to see someone doing a Taskmaster wedding in that.
Yeah.
That's going to happen at some point. So with the team task, we had Angela and Lee on one team, and Guy, Brindley, and Madeline on the other. Which what could go wrong? So with Angela and Lee, they were both pretty calm about the whole thing, and they never panicked at all. Even when the bucket that they were using had broken in half, they weren't even worried that it had broken directly in half and that they were going to spew a lot of it.
Yeah, Lee Hart, I've known him a long time, and you don't often see him worrying about things. He's not. Things don't rattle that man. He's just going to do his thing. Yeah. And if anyone's not going to get rattled by a broken bucket, it's Mr. Hart.
Yeah, and I interviewed Lee Hart last Thursday, and it was really funny because before I do the interviews, I don't record them, and some of the funny things happen. And so he came on and went, "Oh, I've just got to go and get myself a coffee," and comes back and says, "I just made the coffee up on the barbecue," and obviously we in the UK, because of the rain in Britain, we don't really see barbecues out as much, and
Right.
so I thought one that was funny because my brain didn't go, "Oh, you use a kettle." My brain was like, "How do you pour liquid onto a barbecue?"
You just boil it up on the grill. Yeah.
And it made more sense because kettles do exist. I forgot all about the kettle until my parents mentioned it afterwards. That there's a kettle that you boil things in.
Yeah, I'm big on those ones.
Yeah, we have a hot water tap that spews out boiling water.
Jesus, that's advanced.
Yeah, yeah, it's more advanced than sparkling water taps that I see people have. And then Team One used a rake. So a rake that must have a hole in it so it could all drip out. Do you reckon a rake is a good piece of equipment to use in attempting to transfer liquid?
No, no, it's that's not a good one, and you've got three people coming up with that, so that's yeah, that's not great. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I wouldn't go for a rake myself. No.
Mm. And with Taskmaster, when you were on it, how many outfits did they tell you to bring in a day? Like, because I mean, you see his outfit, but you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, see, because I'd never seen Taskmaster before I did it, they said, "What do you want to wear?" And I said, "Oh, what I've got on," because I didn't know that people wore outfits.
Mm.
So what I was wearing on Taskmaster, so when I turned up to shoot Taskmaster, they had three versions of just what I was wearing, which was a pair of jeans and some Nike sneakers and just a grey shirt. So, and that was another thing that was a surprise to me when I was on when I saw Ursula for the first time. We were teamed up, and I was like, "What? You're dressed like Bob the Builder?" And she was like, "Yeah. Why are you just wearing your clothes?" And it's like, "Oh, I didn't know we were supposed to come up with something good to wear."
Well,
So if that would be my advice. If I could go back, I would say wear a pair of overalls or something more keeping with what's going on.
well, Brindley Stint had the best idea ever to wear the scout uniform.
Yeah,
That is the best idea ever because, as a scout myself, the motto is be prepared. And when you've
yeah,
got a neckerchief, which you had around a neck, you are always prepared because you can use it as a sling if you break your arm, or you can use
yeah.
it as a blindfold if you wanted to
Clean yourself
blindfold.
up. You can use it to clean yourself up if you make a mess.
Yeah, and you can roll around in mud and get it dirty because it's probably vacuum. Why would you be vacuuming it? Machine washable. That was the word I was after, not vacuum. You won't vacuum it up. Oh no.
Machine washable. That's a
Yeah,
saying. I haven't heard that in a long time.
yeah. It's a pretty common phrase when you watch an advert in the UK and say the product is machine washable. Like,
Oh, right,
yeah,
right. It's a big thing over there.
they're probably thinking
We
about
we must be so casual here that we just throw everything through the washing machine.
like
Even I think even Paul throws his tux through the washing machine.
yeah, that I'm quite like that. The way he wears a white tux, because that's a brave colour on Taskmaster.
Yeah,
Any
well, there was one episode where we had to find beans, like we had to find some beans in amount of something, and at the end of it, I decided because I was going to pour the beans over its head, and then I was just about to do it, and then I thought that's going to be really annoying for someone. They're going to have to clean his tux, and maybe he doesn't have another one, so I didn't do it. But
mm,
it would have been good if I had. Now, in retrospect, because later on I found they had a spare one.
yeah, and with speaking of food related tasks, with your task about with the Weetabix, uh,
Yeah.
or what was that like? 'Cause I eat Weetabix and they're quite nice, but the
Mm.
Weetabix from there didn't look that nice. Was he like horrible?
Um, yeah, they're a bit dry until I found that you could ask for milk. That's when I found out you could ask for things. Because Ursula said, "What?" I said, "Man, it'd be great if he had some milk." And she goes, "Well, why don't you just ask Paul to get some milk?" And I was like, "Can you ask Paul to get stuff?" And this was deep into the filming. I was like, "Wow, that sucks," because I could have asked him to get so much stuff. But it was quite nice with the milk. For people who haven't seen the episode, that's when I was rumbled cheating. But I dispute that I was cheating because I was just having a joke by putting them in my pocket. I thought Paul could see. I was like, hey, I'm just putting them in my pocket. Like, but then it was played out like it was some kind of big cheating thing. I was like, everyone was in on the bloody joke, and then I was rumbled as a cheater. And well, I had been cheating to be fair,
Yeah.
but everyone. But then Paul goes, I didn't see you cheating. I was like, what, man? Like, if you open a store, Paul, I'm going to go and steal. I'm going to shoplift everything from your store because if you didn't see that,
Yeah, and that's what Taskmaster's for. It's for cheating. 'Cause it's the only program where you're allowed to cheat because that's entertainment. Like
yeah,
if you're on Pointless, you couldn't really cheat at Pointless because it would be pointless. But
yeah,
with
and you can go to
Taskmaster, you can cheat.
you can go to jail for cheating on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Oh, you could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook drama series about that. Called Quiz. So we move on to task number 3. And the third task was that what I like to call one of the best ways of doing a task I've ever seen in this episode. Is to leave the room the fastest. Your time starts when Paul had left the room. How would you have fared with this? Because no, because obviously the fact that there's a table has leaves on it, which is a reference to the word leave, and Paul has
Yeah.
left the room. Well, how would you fared on this task?
Yeah, it's the kind of task I wouldn't fare that well on because the panic sets in. You know what I mean? Like, I always have a point of about 5 minutes when I'm sitting to think about things, and I've got absolutely no ideas. So I would not fare well. I would probably have tried to do something violent and physical, tried to force my way out. You know what I'm saying? Like that wouldn't fall well into my skill set.
Yeah, and then with it got like Angela Dravid has been so good, was so good on the series that she made a cameo in the series too. But with it, she had done the right thing and just walked out, but then
Yeah,
got confused and walked back in the room and realised she'd already completed the task.
yeah, right.
And that's her comic ability of doing this all with a deadpan face, pretending like I have no idea what's going on and pretending she's going on. And have you, other than Lee Hart, do you know any of the series 1 contestants?
Madeline Sami I've met a few times. Lee Hart, obviously, good mates with. And that's it, I think. Yeah, that's it, which is quite interesting for New Zealand, isn't it?
Yeah, because as the saying goes, everyone knows everyone.
Mm.
And it's probably not true, as we found out. So, with that task, it meant that there was a lot of waiting around. It was the only task I've ever seen anyone just stood there like, when are they going to be back?
Yeah.
Time soon. And
Yeah,
it took a lot of waiting around. And
yeah.
then we move on to the live tasks. Now, how do you think you went on with the live tasks?
Poorly on the live tasks. I don't think I won any of the live tasks on the stage. Oh no, I did win one, but that was just because everyone missed throwing a sock or something or a shoe. Can't remember. But no, I didn't do great at the live tasks. And when I say that, I can't remember any of them apart from the first one. Oh, and there was one when we had to draw ourselves. So no, I was terrible at the live tasks.
Yeah. Would you have liked to redo any of the live tasks now on reflection?
Yeah, like as I say, oh yeah, there was one where I just totally didn't understand the game. It was something to do with celebrity names, which I didn't get it. And the thing is, I'm pretty good at celebrity names, but I just didn't get. I didn't understand it. I didn't listen at the start. I think I did all right with one with a suitcase, and I did do quite well with one with just asking Jerry a really horrific question. So. Yeah, no, look, I'm happy. Like, I think I lost them all, but I'm happy with my performance, I think, in them. Because...
Yeah. And with this task, you were blindfolded and you had to stand up when you think the toast was going to pop. Now, for me, I'm not very good at knowing when something's gonna pop out of anything. So do you reckon that you've got the good skills required to know when toast is gonna pop?
Hell no. I mean, we've got this toast in New Zealand called Vogel's, and it's really thick toast. And it takes so long to toast that it actually drives me crazy, especially if it's been in the freezer and it's frozen. And there's no way I can calculate how long that toast is going to cook if I'm like cooking eggs to go on it, and it's actually terrible. And so I saw this thing on the internet a few years ago, and it was saying that the timer on the side is how many minutes it's going to be down, but that's it's not. There's no rationale on how you turn the thing on there toasted and it's going to tell you how long it's going to be. It's not. My parents have got a really advanced toaster that sort of gives them heads up and signals what's going on. But no, terrible at knowing when something's going to pop. Even a pimple, I never know when my pimple is going to pop.
And so this toaster, we're gonna get onto this toaster for a second. So does it like speak to him like your toast is almost ready?
Yeah, it does. And then it goes, "Would you like to have a?" And it goes, "Would you like to inspect the toast?" And then you go, "Yes," and it comes up, and you can inspect it for a second, and then it goes back down just to see if it's it's just a little inspector, and and it goes, "Your toast is nearing." It's too much actually. It's like I think there was something in the Douglas Adams book, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, one of those books where the toaster became sentient.
Well,
It's sort of got that. There's too much communication with your toaster. You know what I mean?
in Red Dwarf, the British sitcom,
I love that. I love that show. Yeah, that might be what I'm thinking about.
that had a talking toaster that was
Yeah,
sassy. It was a sassy talking toaster.
yeah. Great series, Red Dwarf. Love it.
And that's what that toaster reminds me of because I wouldn't want any of my appliances talking to me. Like
No.
I wouldn't want my fridge to say, "Oh, just shut the door already." I mean, waiting
Yeah.
2 minutes, getting a little bit too warm. I
They'll
don't
be
want.
like, "I'm freezing," and the freezer's like, "I'm freezing. Oh, I'm freezing." And you'd be like, "Put on a jersey, mate. Put on a jumper, mate."
Uh, and, and so they all did quite well at that. And the episode
Yeah.
winner was Angela Dravid. And no surprise there because Angela Dravid was the ultimate Taskmaster in Series 1.
Yeah.
She even appeared inside a bear costume in Series 2.
Yeah, that's right. I remember seeing that, but I didn't see it at the time. I think I didn't. I think that was in an episode where I didn't interact with the bear. I might have seen the bear because you had to interact with the bear to find out there was someone in it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think someone did, and I was like, "Oh wow, there was someone in that bear the whole time. That's interesting."
Yeah. And throughout this wonderful interview, you have been splicing information about tasks that were never made it to air. And question, what's your favourite task that you did that you really wished went to air but never made it to air?
There was one where we were down this. We were in the forest, and there was and you met Paul there, and you just had to guess what word he was thinking of. And so that would roll through, and you'd have to guess what his word was thinking of. And I was the only one that got the word, and I got it quite quickly. And I think they got rid of it. I might be giving away too much information here, but I think they got rid of the task because no one else got the word, and so that could have pushed me up into, I don't know, where did I come last or fourth or something. They could have pushed me up over David Corios or something if they I actually did my best work in the tasks that didn't make it to air.
Wow. Because
Yeah,
that task,
it's a big claim. It's hard. It's hard to argue against me on that because they weren't judged because they didn't make it to air.
Well,
But I feel like I did really well and stuff that wasn't good enough to make it to air.
yeah, well, that task seems like the perfect task to be YouTube exclusive because Taskmaster in the UK interacts with YouTube a lot with like outtakes and
Oh,
doing the interviews. So I reckon if New Zealand Taskmaster ever made a YouTube channel and put that task on there, that'll be a big
yeah,
hit and it'll be a
yeah,
good
there would be, yeah.
tool.
Yeah, I could be the non-aired Taskmaster champion, like the champion of tasks that's not good enough or entertaining enough or didn't work and didn't make it to air. That champion.
Taskmaster cuts the winner.
Yeah, that's right. Additional footage Taskmaster champion. Yeah,
Yeah, and
cutting room floor champion.
yeah, and what task did you think you did terrible at that went to air that you didn't want to go to air?
I was concerned about the short film. Actually, now I was talking about that before because I didn't come up with an idea for ages, and then I had to sort of run around and make up two characters and I think Reginald Bathgate like an investigator, and I was sort of terrified because it didn't make any sense how we were putting it together, and it was getting dark, we had a small amount of time,
Yeah,
and I thought this is going to be stupid and crap. And I saw other people's ones that were good, and then I saw mine, and it was excellent.
yeah,
So you know,
yeah, and
it was one of the best things that's ever been filmed.
yeah, and not only did you interact with Taskmaster within the show, and I think when I was so I was when the series was airing, I would do a podcast episode on it and review the episodes. And
Yeah,
when I was looking more into it and looking at the radio show because I was really intrigued because I was at that point I gone past it. I was obsessed with New Zealand. I tried everything I could to get all New Zealand as possible. And so I found this promo that was incredible of you and Jeremy, but you being that doing it being like Taskmaster, but in the radio studio. What was that
oh
like?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, that, you know, with that, what happened with that one is that Paul was supposed to be there, and they'd got the Taskmaster throne delivered to the studio to do this promo, but they couldn't get the throne through the door of the studio, and Paul slept in, so he couldn't make it there, and then the camera crew had got the wrong day. So, so me and Jerry were like, like us and the promo people were like, either we could just cancel this and have to do it another day, but it's really hard to get anyone in the same place at the same time. So we just said, let's make this up on the spot. And so we just filmed it on our cameras that run all the time in our studio anyway. And I was like, oh, okay, that's a casual thing. I thought it was just to go out on like Instagram once, but then it just kept appearing on the TV here all the time. It was like half an idea and then filmed on our studio internet cameras, and everyone seemed happy with it. So that shows how low people's expectations were of us.
well, I really liked it because it's a unique one because every promo you see is always the Taskmaster, its assistant, and you never
Yeah.
see the Taskmaster in his natural habitat with a
Yeah.
contestant who is also in his natural
He-
habitat recording.
yeah. Yeah, that is unique, isn't it? The
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think about it at the time because like they just rang me up and said, "Do you want to do Taskmaster?" And I was like, "Yeah, that thing Jerry's doing. Yeah, cool, cool." But I thought, oh, maybe me and Jerry hanging out, but I didn't realize that Jerry isn't at the mansion.
yeah.
So it was interesting. He was just going to judge me and try and humiliate me on national television. So
Well,
maybe I should have said no.
that's what entertainment's for, to be humiliated. Because
Yeah.
Alex Horn, for the Series 10 promos in the UK, dressed up like a jester, and so that, and then Greg Davis so Channel 4 run these adverts called we're different to show that they're for everyone, and they've got Greg Davis sat on his Taskmaster throne, next to a kitten, saying no, yelling at the kitten, and then at another point riding a dinosaur in his throne. And so having that, and then having the Taskmaster with you, made it seem that New Zealand had more common sense to make it look more realistic.
Right. But what it was is that New Zealand is so slack that they don't turn up to the shoot, and then you have to make do with what you got.
Yeah.
So it's good. I like how you took a positive spin on.
Well, I loved it so much. I downloaded that promo and then distributed it on this YouTube channel we're on right now, just because it was so amazing and it was no I hadn't seen anyone else talk about it, so I wanted to be the first one in. I wanted to get there in early. I wanted to get the conversation rolling. I'm the
Wouldn't you?
hype man. I'm the international hype man.
Good, and like raising my profile globally.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I appreciate.
yeah. And with Taskmaster being popular, do you reckon you had more listeners into your radio show since you've been on Taskmaster?
Well, we gave away. There was a clue, and it came up on the New Zealand screen. There was a clue for and a picture of me and Jerry would come up in every ad break, and it would say, "Tune into the Matt and Jerry show, and if you know the clue, you'll win $1,000." So I guess so. I mean, Jerry's on TV every night. He hosts a news show on TVNZ every night at 7 o'clock called 7 Sharp, and so if anything, me and Jerry being on Taskmaster and him being on that every day, and I think I was doing some of the show at the same time. We're probably over it. Get enough of us, and they can't be bothered tuning into other radio shows. There's always a potential of that, you know.
Yeah, and so what I like about, we'll briefly talk about the radio show, but what I quite like about it is that modern radio, as in modern radio has it where it's the radio show itself, and then they condense it into a podcast. So if you miss it, you can go afterwards. What I like about yours is purely because it's hard for someone like me to listen to because I'm in my time zone. I have the podcast, so I can listen to it afterwards. So I can still get that entertainment, but not in the traditional way.
Yeah.
Everyone else gets it.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's quite interesting because I think a lot of people listen to our show via podcast because, you know, our podcast does very well over here, much better than our radio show. So I think people like to time shift us. I think we might be too much to stomach in the morning.
Yeah. And now to come down to the slippery slopes, I like to call towards the end. I don't know where I was going with that. I was trying not to copy Sandy Toxic on QI. I had to be careful there. With Series 3 being a possibility as time of recording this, which is, for me, is the 17th of March, 2022, so we could find out after this or whatever, but who do you want to see on Series 3?
That's a really, really difficult question to answer. If I'm watching at home, I'd like to see Guy Montgomery, David Correos, and Ursula Carlson and Laura Daniel, because I love those people. So I'd like to watch them on it, but that seems unlikely, seeing as they did season 2. So I'm just trying to run my mind over talent in New Zealand that I would like to see on it, and I'm coming up with nothing. Just there's so much talent in New Zealand. I can't really think about it. There's someone I'd like to see on it. No, gone. It's gone. I can't help you there, I'm afraid.
And with Taskmaster New Zealand, with Series 2, when Series 2 went out, Paul Williams and David Correos both appeared on Are You Paying Attention New Zealand? Were you a bit gutted that they didn't ask you to go along with Paul to be on that show?
Yeah, I'm furious about that. But I used to be on Are You Paying Attention a bit when it first started, and I think they grew to hate me, and then they stopped booking me. So I think I might have been what's called blackballed. Is that the word? Or I think I've been red carded from that show.
Well,
so look, I can't be offended. I think I brought that upon myself, my lack of being invited back on that show.
Well, Paul, when I interviewed Paul for 2 hours, which no one was expecting that to happen, neither did me and Paul. He had said how he wanted to be on the show as a contestant. Do you reckon he would be himself as off-camera Paul, or do you reckon he would be Taskmaster assistant Paul?
He would be about the best contestant you could get in terms of funny, awesome, talented people. He'd be amazing. He's an incredible musician. He's very intelligent. He'd be amazing. So, but that would be such a bummer not to have Paul. But you can do split screen stuff now. So, so if they wanted to add a whole lot of admin to their life, that Paul would be a great contestant.
Yeah.
In fact, that's a very good point. He would be the best contestant that ever had. Jeremy would be a terrible contestant. He'd be rubbish. Just because he's so lazy, he can't be bothered doing anything. So he's such a ridiculously lazy man that he would do everything from his seat. He just wouldn't move. You know what I mean?
Wow. So as we come down to the end of this, and we do all the admin stuff, because this is a fantastic podcast, and it will be out there. If by any chance Jeremy Wells is watching this, I will plead to you right now, Jeremy Wells. I would love to interview you. If you look at my history of interviewees, I've interviewed Alex Horn, the curator, Paul Williams, the assistant, Babin Larsen, the Swedish Taskmaster, and all hosts of amazing people right on my doorstep. I started doing a Sarah Jane Adventure thing there. So, as Ed Gamble does on the original podcast, I, with my small hands, pinch his ideas, steal them, rip them off, and hope he never finds out. And we always do a thing at the end where you rate your experience on the podcast from 1 being the worst thing you've ever been on, or 5, the best thing you've ever been on. What would you rate your experience on the Taskmaster World, the podcast?
So 1 is so 5 is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
5 is the best, 1 is the worst.
So you're competing with the birth of my children. That's big. Look, it's been a solid 3.
Woo.
Yeah, so I'm at 3. I mean, you said it's a very difficult scale to judge on. You know,
It's a very difficult scale. It's like I don't know how the Taskmaster does it themselves.
Yeah. So the worst thing would be when I broke my spine. So it's at least 3 better than breaking my spine.
Wow. I mean, your spine would really hurt if you broke it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it
was bad. It was a bad time.
Yeah. And so with that, I would like to say thank you, viewers, for looking at my wonderful, lovely face and Matt's lovely face. Again, if you listen to this on every audio platform, well, good on you. I wouldn't recommend it because if I just bring this in, Apple, who aren't the best people in the world at the moment, didn't want this to work, so you've got my awful audio, so recommend looking at my face and you've got something nice to look at, rather than my voice that can be heard from Mars. But with Matt Heath, with your busy schedule, what have you got to promote to my lovely viewers? Where can they find you?
Oh, where can they find me? Listen to the Matt and Jerry podcast, wherever you find podcasts. That's what I've just been recording. And I think that's probably the only thing that makes it overseas. I'm not sure if my kids' TV show's in England. Might be. Cardboard City, Welcome to Cardboard City. That might be over there, might not.
Ooh,
I'll ask my sister.
I'm not too sure on that because the only kids' TV shows I watch as of earlier was CBeebies Bedtime Stories.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. That's not it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess the only thing that I can promote over there is our podcast, the Matt and Jerry podcast. Give it a listen.
You should definitely give it a listen if you're a fan of Taskmaster, because then you can broaden your horizons and you can be more obsessed with New Zealand than me. Because I got to that stage where I could successfully sing along to the first line in the national anthem and then the English bits.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's something.
Yeah.
It's a cracking tune. National anthem.
It is.
It's a cracking little plotter, that one.
Yeah, it's much better than ours. But if the Queen's watching, I do apologise. I don't know why the Queen would watch, but if you are watching.
Oh, if you are watching, if the Queen's watching, what an absolute honour.
Yeah.
To be talking to you, Ma'am, Your Majesty. And truth be known, legally, God Save the Queen is also our national anthem as well. We've got 2. Your Majesty. You're a great New Zealander.
And on that bombshell, on that note, I would, because that's a perfect way to end any interview and we've been watching. That's basically ripping on Monty Python, but we won't get into that. So, thank you guys for watching, and as you see on Strictly, remember, keep tasking. Bye, tatty bye.
Hello everyone, please subscribe to Taskmaster World.